Hello, Pauper fans. This is Mathonical, and you're joining me for the fifth and final round with Enchantment Control. Uh, our opening hand looks great. We're missing black sources, but we don't have any Pestilence, so no big deal there. We've got life gain, we've got ways of interacting with our opponent, so looks good all around. Very happy keeping this one. Unfortunately, it looks like our opponent did have to mulligan down to 4. And this is interesting. It looks like they're on the mono-white heroic list. From my testing and experience, this is a pretty good matchup for us because even though they do have a lot of protection effects to protect their guys and make our enchantments fall off, it also makes all of their own enchantments fall off. So basically, we're going to be able to go after the Sakroan Skyguard with our Oblivion Ring. I did debate between the Hobble and the Oblivion Ring here. Assuming they had one card in hand, so if it was emerge unscathed, basically I want to be able to draw this card later. Although trying to bait it out so that way they can't draw a card, it was probably better to hold onto the Oblivion Ring to completely get rid of it later. So perhaps I missequenced it there, but then it looks like our opponent is having a small punt right back. They're basically casting the Emerge Unscathed before we've resolved and targeted their Crone Skyguard. Basically, this means that we're going to be able to take the Trailblazer instead, which is fine by us. Basically, it means that they weren't going to be able to, on the rebound, target their other creature and start having 2 attackers, but yeah, we'll take it. Here we're basically going to... Oh, looks like we have a double cleave. So we're taking 10 damage. That is the power of this deck, although now he's out of cards. Very lucky draw on our part. We managed to get the Oblivion Ring just to get it off the table permanently. And we're just going to get an Abundant Growth out as well. Basically, here we have a couple options, but the option I'm going to go with is basically casting the Recumbent Bliss on the Sacred Cat. I don't want to be taking 1 damage a turn since we're already at 9, and I feel like it's going to be fairly unlikely for our opponent to want to use a protection effect just to remove our enchantment, so we'll just start gaining 1 life a turn instead of losing 1. Here we also have the option, we have a few options again. We can play like Heliod's Pilgrim to get guaranteed Quiet Disrepair and start getting some life that way, but we already have 1 Quiet Disrepair in hand. I'm also curious what we're going to hit off the Kruphix's Insight. So instead, what I'm going to do is go Kruphix's Insight to start us off, just to find out what kind of enchantments we're going to get. And we get a Fertile Ground and a Journey to Nowhere. Journey is very useful in this matchup. And then we're just going to get... we have the option between the Fertile Ground and the Disrepair, but I'm going to put the Disrepair out because we just want to start gaining that life buffer in case our opponent is able to string together a lot of good draws in a row. And looks like our opponent is still whiffing. That's a little unfortunate for them. It is one of the side effects of mulling to 4, unfortunately. We're going to continue to draw cards, and yeah, basically here we're just going to get our Heliod's Pilgrim down, and we're basically looking to get another Disrepair here just to continue our life gain. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and what we're going to do is we're going to play it on the Oblivion Ring. If we tap our mana correctly, which we finally do. Oh, actually, we'll play the Fertile Ground first, sorry. This is a good thing to do. You want to play your Fertile Ground so that way you have your additional mana. And then we'll play the Disrepair. And generally, I would put it on the Oblivion Ring. This time I decided to put it on the Fertile Ground, but just as a heads up, generally I'd put it on the creature you don't mind giving back. I think I've mentioned this previously in the series. Sorry if I'm going a little bit slow through it. Occasionally tapping these mana, it does mess up the client, unfortunately. So here we're going to be able to start getting in for 1 damage, which is great for us. And we've got basically 2 removal spells for whatever comes down later on. We would really like to find a Pestilence at some point, because that will basically lock out the game. Or even better, we could get a Protective Sphere at some point. So we're just going to continue to gain our 5 life. And there's the Pestilence we were looking for, so this is great news for us. We can't kill anything really this turn, and I'm going to try and cast the Hobble just to see what our opponent has. It looks like our opponent does have another Merge Unscathed, that is fine. So they're just going to use it again. I'm surprised they didn't use it on the cat to knock off the enchantments, but they decided to just put it on there and get Pro Black. Going to get some lifelink and swing in. That's no problem. We've already got up to 30 life from the 9 we were down to with all the life gain. And you can see I'm starting to activate the Pestilence here. Basically, we do want to start pinging for 1 a turn for the foreseeable future until we eventually win. So here, I'm just going to chip in for 1 damage, and then I'm going to try and cast the Journey. I'm attacking for the damage first, just because if they have a protection effect, we would lose our Pilgrim. I'm casting it knowing that they could possibly protect themselves against it, but it would take off the lifelink, which I don't want them getting life. And we can afford to take the damage if that's what happened. Now putting the Quiet Disrepair on the Oblivion Ring, just in case we want to give them that creature back at some point. I'm pretty sure they don't play any removal in the main deck, so I'm not too concerned about that. I did miss putting in 1 point of damage there. Basically, I'm just trying to play as fast as possible, and occasionally I miss that. Forest, we'll just play it out, do the 1 damage, pass the turn. They're going to draw a card, that's fine. They're going to play the Seeker. That's fine, we're just going to start pinging for the 1 damage. We really would like a Protective Sphere to just lock out this game at this point, because we don't want them gaining life off Seeker. And speak of the devil, we did draw the Protective Sphere, so we're just going to drop that down. And this is completely locked out the game. Basically, our opponent would need some enchant removal to get around this, because even though they can suit up their Seeker of the way and start trying to swing for some damage, we can just prevent it, which means they're not going to be gaining any life or anything like that. Yep. Our opponent is going to keep playing the good, or keep fighting the good fight. They're going to play another Seeker of the way, but basically, since we're gaining 6 life a turn, and it's only going to cost us 2 life a turn to keep their Seekers at bay, and 1 damage on both turns, we're still netting 2 life per round and doing 2 damage to them. So it's going to take us a number of turns, but we will get there, because that is what this deck does. If you like the slow, inevitable grind, this deck is the one for you. Gonna prevent the damage. They won't be able to gain any life. We're gonna ping for 1. And yeah. Back on our turn, our opponent finally decided to give it up. They are down 2.5 minutes on the clock, and there wasn't any way they could win. So basically, if they continued playing this one out, it was going to hurt themselves. It's a little unfortunate that our opponent didn't have to mull, but our deck certainly gives you a lot of time to, well, get back into it. So we're going to jump on over to game number 2. And, let's first take a quick look at the sideboarding here. So, I'm not the biggest fan of having, like, all of our enchantments in there. So basically what I did is I traded 1 of the Recumbent Blisses for 1, the last Pestilence, because Pestilence is really good for locking them out. I did debate taking out 1 of the Desires for 1 of the Prohibits, but I decided to keep it just a standard, fairly typical list, because it does work really well against them. So our opening hand, this is one of those rare hands where I'm going to keep it even though we have no green sources. We do have 3 cards that can interact with our opponent so far, and the Pilgrim can fetch 1 more. So that should buy us plenty of time to eventually draw our green source and start going off. Our opponent did not have to mulligan this time. I'm very glad about that, because I did want a good match. We'll just take our little beats from the Sacred Cat, although they did put the cartouche on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the Desire. If they ever want to attack with their cat again, they are going to lose their cartouche as well. I think our opponent just F6'd a little too fast on their turn, or maybe they don't have their stop set up again after the last grindy one. So they didn't attack with their warrior. So we just went ahead and played our Heliod's Pilgrim to get another Desire. And things are looking a little rough as we didn't have a green, but as I say it, we played the Hobble on our opponent's Skyguard, which drew us the green source, and that of course is going to allow us to play the Abundant Growth. And now, yeah, we've got everything online and working. So our opponent is suiting up the Skyguard. I'm assuming that they're going to try and go for some large play later on where they give it pro white. Unfortunately, it is also going to knock off all of their enchantments, so I don't think it was necessarily the best play here, but it is possible that they might be able to go, like give it double strike, show Mano's Blessing, and just kind of go off, so we do have to be very mindful of that. So this turn we really get to start doing some good stuff. We're just going to play a Fertile Ground into another Fertile Ground into a Kruphix's Insight, hopefully finding us. Yeah, that's perfect. We got the Pestilence to clean up all the little things, and we got 2 Oblivion Rings. Basically, next turn I plan on using one of the Oblivion Rings on the Skyguard just to make sure that we don't get kind of like punked out by some protection effects, taking off our Hobble. Our opponent plays Seeker, that makes sense. And here we're just going to go ahead and cast an Oblivion Ring. Take out the Skyguard just so we don't get wrecked by that. And here we're also going to play the Pestilence just to kind of lock out our opponent from most of the plays they have. And as we cast it while it was on the stack, our opponent did end up conceding. They had seen enough, so I can't blame them. This deck does kind of eat away at your opponent's soul. Well, in my opinion, it's better than Tron, but that's just me. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I'm going to do a recap after the video because I've made quite a few adjustments that I find are fairly interesting to the deck. So feel free to come back if you'd like to see the newest iteration I have of this list. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.